Stepdad sexually assaulted me as an adult. My mom stayed. What do I do now? I've known my stepdad since I was a young child. He is a very well-known spiritual leader in our community, and I always looked up to him as my family raised me extremely religious. My upbringing was a mixed bag as my dad struggled with addiction quietly for many years and had trouble holding a job. My mom stayed for years and didn't leave until I was in high school. I have recently wondered if this is because there was already something developing with her and my stepdad. My parents divorced. It was a nasty situation that came with a lot of trauma to my brother and I. I moved out right at 18, and my mom and stepdad were married that same year. I was happy for my mom as she spent so many years in a bad relationship struggling financially. He directly told me the day they were married he saw my brother and I as his own children and would love us no different than his own. My dad was diagnosed with cancer and passed away when I was 21 and my brother 16. My brother moved in with my mom and stepdad full-time and was treated horribly during that time. No TV allowed in the room, 10-minute showers, left alone all weekend while they went away, and he had no way to leave the house. He never forgave either of them for this treatment when he'd just lost his dad and really needed to be loved and not treated like a problem kid. During this time, my stepdad started calling me and keeping me on the phone for hours, having extremely uncomfortable conversations with me about my mom and his intimate relationship, how he was at his wit's end with my brother, how they were on the brink of divorce, etc. He would tell me I was the only person he could talk to about this and begged me not to tell my mom, saying she would divorce him and he would kill himself because he couldn't go through another divorce. I agreed and kept his secrets, thinking that I didn't want my mom and him to divorce. I can count on one hand how many times I was with my mom by herself over the next 14 years. She would never go anywhere without him. I am talking when I went wedding dress shopping, he came along. It was always so weird, and she would get very angry if I ever said anything about it. I became pregnant when I was 30 and had my daughter. She was by far the best thing that's happened to me, but I ended up stuck in an abusive dynamic with her father and had agreed to quit my job and stay at home with her. Because of this, I had no financial way to escape, and my mom helped me move into her spare bedroom with my 1-year-old so I could get back on my feet. A few months later, my mom decided to go visit my brother in Colorado for a week. This left my daughter and I home alone with my stepdad. During the time she was away, he exposed himself sexually to me on 2 separate occasions and touched my butt at one point. I was so uncomfortable but told myself it had to have been an accident. A couple of days before she was due home, he sat me down and started in with one of his overly informative talks he did to me for years, back when my mom and him were going through things, and ended up openly admitting to showing himself to me on purpose. He told me about how he needed to feel attractive to women, he's over 70, mind you, and that my mom never wants to have sex with him. The stuff he was saying had me writhing in my skin, and I finally told him that was enough. I am the kind of person to call someone out and say when something is wrong, so I totally shut him down and told him he should be ashamed of himself. I told him that I would give him the opportunity to tell my mom what had gone on when she returned, or I would. He begged me to not say anything and again started threatening to kill himself and that it would ruin his life, and I reiterated it was either him or me, but she would know what happened. I went into my bedroom and was shaking like a leaf, feeling so betrayed by this man who had essentially been my dad for the past 15 years at that point. I was disgusted and terrified of what he was capable of, since he now knew his life could possibly be over. I put my daughter to bed and locked myself in her room, hiding in the closet with a knife. I called my brother and sobbed on the phone for hours and didn't sleep at all that night. Needless to say, my mom came home from her trip, and he told her, and her reaction was to not care about what happened to me, but lament about her marriage possibly being over and what would happen to them when the church art community found out. I was horrified and absolutely shattered. My mom has been my best friend and Tier 1 supporter my entire life. I would never in a million years have thought that would be her response. I told her he needed to leave, so he went to a hotel, and she laid in her bed crying because he left. The next few days were some of the worst of my life. I was so angry I screamed and cried, threw things and begged to be understood. It all came back to being thrown in my face. Do you want me to leave a 15-year marriage because of this? Is that what you want from me? I still love him. I know that it would put her in a financial bind, and as someone well into her 60s, I finally conceded that she needed to do what was best for her, and I wouldn't say anything. I agreed to keep her secret and protect her. They said he would step down from the church, move out either into a mobile home somewhere or an RV, and he wouldn't be allowed around my daughter unsupervised, which they both were horrified I could think he was capable of doing anything to a child. None of these things happened, and I had no choice but to remain there as I couldn't afford to move out. I received no help from my daughter's father, and I made too much to qualify for any assistance. I was begged to stay and told that he would stay away from me, so I did, not wanting to punish my mom for something he had done. Nothing was ever brought up to me about what happened on purpose. Twice the conversation came up between my mom and I over the past 2 years, and she defended him and told me I refused to forgive and was holding on to hatred, and she did not live her life like that. All of the anger I felt from that time came back up, and I felt again like I was fighting to justify the awful pain and trauma I'd gone through. I cannot speak his name. I have to look around every corner I walk around to make sure he isn't in the room. I can't step foot into a church or talk about God because he is so wrapped up in everything I have always devoutly believed in. I sit on the side of the road and cry many nights before coming home because I can't even heal from what I've gone through, and there is no understanding for me and every excuse in the world to justify what he did. It all finally came to a head when I held my daughter's birthday last month and my brother came down. A lot of family drama came about, leading me to have the sudden realization that this is something I've actually had to deal with my mom many, many times throughout my life. That when it comes to situations where there are men involved, or she should protect me at the sacrifice of her own comfort, I am blamed. That realization led me to tell her I no longer wanted anything to do with her. She realized shortly after I was making moves to actually move out. I have been so depressed, driving an hour to work one way, drinking to cope with my living situation, no chances of dating as I live in the middle of nowhere, etc. And she sent me a long text blaming me for everything, telling me I was cruel to take my daughter away from them, and I was hateful and holding on to my bitterness. Ultimately, she offered to put an RV on their property for me to live in to give me space, as she knows I've been needing it for a while. I was beyond insulted and let her have it totally. I told her if she dared ever send me anything like that again, I would broadcast what her husband did and ruin their lives. I said she had no right to call herself my mother, and she was a horrible excuse for a parent. She didn't respond, and I am so unbelievably angry. I feel like any attempt on her part to speak to me would turn physical at this point, which I've never done before. I'm just so heartbroken, but also feel silly to some degree because I'm not a child. And do I really have the right to be angry at my mom when this happened to me as a 32-year-old woman? I'm trying so hard to work through this trauma, but I feel like I was groomed. I feel like this man stepped into a role he never had any intention on filling and bided his time until the opportunity presented itself. He always said that he was jealous of my brother and I having so much of my mother's love, and now I feel like he's won and not only got away with what he did, ultimately ruining my life and family, but he has her to himself. Even worse, my daughter loves him so much and I don't want her near him. I don't know what to do or which way is up anymore. I just want out, and I'm working so hard to make that happen.